I saw a lot of my indie friends return to paid employment in 2017. A lot of folks just got ground down by the hustle. It's just they're trying and they're trying and they're trying. They just put their heart and soul into, maybe building a software product, and it just didn't get any traction. And it's just too much work for too little reward. And so the question for me, and maybe the question for you, can we still keep this solopreneur dream alive? Is it still realistic to be an independent business owner, making a living using the internet and selling digital products? Is that still something that's possible? And I think it is. But to win in 2018, we are really going to need to adapt. We are really going to need to focus on the right things. My friend James Clear just tweeted this: "Success is 20% working hard and 80% working on the right things. You'll never stand out without both, but where you apply the effort matters." Working on the right things is going to be key. And if you're thinking about launching a business in 2018, or if you already have a business and you're thinking, how am I going to survive and thrive in 2018? You're going to need to understand the current opportunities and the current threats, and how you can leverage your unique strengths to capitalize on them. And as you're going through this process, I do think it helps to have a guide, whether you do that with a small mastermind group or a mentor. I'm doing a workshop in January for this express reason, megamaker.co/workshop if you're interested. But you need someone that can help you identify your strengths and your weaknesses. As an example, I was doing a consulting call with a fellow, and as we were talking, he's saying, I really want to get into the education space around Ruby on Rails, but it feels like Ruby on Rails maybe isn't as popular as it was. And as I was looking at his website and his blog, I identified a few characteristics about him. One is he'd mentioned his anxiety quite a bit. He struggles with extreme anxiety, which is quite common, I think, for a lot of people. They struggle with self-confidence, they struggle with anxiety, they get panic attacks. But what was unique about him is that he was also really passionate about public speaking. He'd forced himself to speak at meetups, and he'd gradually worked his way up to actually running his own Ruby conference in his hometown. And he was also a software developer. Now, individually, none of these things makes him terribly unique, but when you combine them, the fact that he's a software developer who has extreme anxiety and is interested in public speaking, that is a very unique platform. And so my recommendation to him as something to test in 2018 was, why don't you do more content and maybe more training for software developers that struggle with anxiety but want to get into public speaking, that want to, start sharing their expertise and their passion with the world. So part of the picture is identifying your strengths and weaknesses. The other part that's tricky is you need to be able to identify the current opportunities and threats. These are conditions that happen in a current period of time. They're always shifting. Opportunities come and go, and threats come and go. And since launching my podcast, Product People, in 2012, I've had this interesting back channel to hundreds of bootstrappers. One of the things I've said a lot now is that the most valuable conversation is no longer happening out in the open. It's actually happening in private Slack chats, in Skype calls, in direct messages. And in these arenas, I'm hearing things from founders that really isn't being shared publicly. And what I'm learning is that there are still lots of great business opportunities, but that the old playbooks just don't work anymore. And the reason the old playbooks don't work anymore is times have changed. We're in a unique time right now. So one of the threats, and it's something I mentioned before, is that a lot of these indie markets have become saturated. Certainly, online business training is a lot more competitive now than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Even in niches that are still have had some newcomers, like training for software developers. Adam Wathan had a great year, and I understand Wes Boss and Laracast, they're all having really good years. But that space has become a lot more competitive. There's a lot more people coming in hoping to get a piece of the pie. And so that's a threat. What's going to become unique are the folks that are willing to not just put something up on the web and walk away, but are willing to become meaningfully engaged in people's lives. I'm planning on doing a boot camp on this topic first couple weeks of January. Go to megamaker.co/workshop. And in January 2018, let's come back and interact again on how we can identify new opportunities, avoid some of those threats, and really leverage your strengths and weaknesses in your business. I'll see you then.